Hello, vlog. Today's vlog is slightly different because I didn't feel like doing it until now. So it's like almost 5 o'clock currently. And it's also different because it's probably not going to actually be, I don't know, we'll see. Potentially it's going to turn into a making croissants vlog, or it might end up being just a vlog that contains making croissants. So I've got this is the part of making croissants. I have my mixing bowl for a stand mixer and kitchen scale, and I'm adding 480 grams, or about 4 cups, of all-purpose flour. Ideally you would use bread flour because that has a higher, I think, protein level in it, which makes for a more stable dough. But we don't have bread flour, so we're just using all-purpose, and it'll probably be fine. So there's 450 grams, and then also need to add 50 grams of sugar. And sugar is important in dough because that's what the yeast likes to eat. And so if you don't have it, then your yeast won't work as well. 50 grams is about 1/4 cup, I do believe. But we'll see. Okay, there we go. Almost 1/4 cup, there's like that much left. That's why sometimes it's good to weigh your ingredients instead of just measuring them with a measuring cup, because it kind of changes it. Okay, we need 10 grams of fine salt. So we'll add that in. A lot of the time I find, we'll see how this works. Tear, go back, tear, there. A lot of the time when I'm baking, I don't use as much salt as what the recipe calls for, but I feel like in bread you kind of have to. One, because salt also affects the yeast, and so if you don't use it, then it might develop too much or rise too much or whatever. But then also because bread doesn't really have a flavor other than just bread, so if you don't have salt in it, then it's going to be kind of bland. Now we have our yeast, and we're adding in 7 grams of yeast, which is like 2 1/4 teaspoons, which is like a packet, I think. 1, 2, and there's 7 grams. Perfect. And now we're gonna mix that all up. That's the flour mixture mixing. Now we're going to get 1 1/4 cups of cool water. Let's see if we can get this right. Oh, okay, let's see. How close is it? Literally perfect. I'm an expert. And it's cool. Okay. So now we're going to slowly kind of drizzle in the water into the rest of the dough and let it start to hydrate it. There we go. Okay, and then gonna mix this on this kind of low speed for like 2 minutes, and then make sure all the flour is like mixed into it, and then after crank the speed up to medium or so, and then do that for 5 minutes. And I'll show it when it gets to the end, but you want it so that all the dough is kind of pulled away from the side so it's not sticking to it anymore, and it's forming like one ball on the hook. And that's how you know that it's been kneaded pretty well enough. Voila! There it is. Also, whoops, terrible filming skills. Okay, ready? Watch. If I poke the dough, it kind of slowly comes back up. And that's because there's gluten that's been developed into it, and so you know that it's actually good and ready and kneaded well. Okay, now that we have our dough, we need to roll it so that it's in a nice rectangle shape for the resting time. And so what we're gonna do is take parchment paper, like a pretty big, can't really see it on camera, but pretty big piece of it, and then roll the dough into a rectangle on that parchment paper, and then take it right from there onto a baking sheet, and then put it in the fridge. So I'm going to flour the parchment paper so that the dough itself doesn't stick afterwards, because that would be annoying. Just get it nice and evenly distributed all over. Voila. Now we're going to take our dough. It's actually, whoops, I'm not even counting. It's a very soft dough. Nice texture for working with, but it's the type of thing where it kind of just sticks to everything. But also you can't like grease the bowl before, because then it would just get mixed in, so. Oh well. So I'm going to flatten it. I'll put it like this so you can kind of actually see. Flatten it into like a rectangle shape just with your hands, because that's going to be kind of the guide of what shape you want once you actually start rolling it. And if you have it in a circle, then you're going to end up with it closer to a circle. But by putting it into a rectangle beforehand, it just makes it easier for you to keep in mind kind of your final shape. So, rolling pin, and now we're just going to roll the dough. Once again, trying to remember what shape you want it in, and so then you can kind of reshape as you're going along. You don't want it to be too thin. Like, I don't really know if it would make a difference, but it's not really necessary to have it too thin. But just so that it's going to kind of chill evenly and be ready, because the next step after it chills for like 4 hours is to do the bourrage, or like butterage, but French. And the butter is going to be in a kind of like rectangular or square shape, and then that way you put that butter rectangle on the dough, and then you fold the dough onto the butter and fold it over it and everything to just make it, it's called lamination, I guess is what the process is called. But anyways, okay, this is, I would say, pretty good. I'm going to take some of the flour from it and just rub it on the top of the dough and just kind of get the edges nice and flat and even so they'll be nice and even after. Because I'm going to wrap the parchment paper over it so that way it's not like exposed to the fridge or whatever. But just got to make sure that it's not. So here is the dough from the top in that rectangle, and now going to parchment paper right to the edge of where the dough is, and then kind of crease it down so it'll actually stay. Take the other side of the parchment paper, same thing, fold it down over the other one, crease it, and then voila. Now got our baking sheet, and we're just going to slide the dough right onto there. I'm actually going to trim the edges of the parchment paper because I don't want it to be pulling up over the edge piece. Not for any practical reason, it just looks weird. Okay. And then what I'm going to do is just take it, if I can, grab the parchment paper where it is, and then flip the dough over. And that way the open part is on the bottom instead of it being on the top where it could possibly flip up and open. Now, going to take it outside. Decided that the dough is actually not going in the fridge, it's going outside, because it's that time of year where it's cold enough that you can do that. And then this way it'll save space in the fridge. Voila. Put it right here. And look at that beautiful sunset. Just majestic.
The next day.
Hello. We have now reached the next step of our croissant making process, which is making the bourrage, if you will. So what we're gonna do, we want 1 1/4 cups of butter. So I'm gonna measure that in. Just a second, I'm getting my blade. Go a little indent on the packaging, and then slice that down. Perfect. And we have 1 1/4 cups, big block of butter right there, and we're going to take parchment paper and then kind of lay the butter out in like a sheet on it, and then we're gonna roll the butter out so it goes flat. Okay. So, I'm moving this down so you can actually see it. Oh wow. So we have our big piece of butter. We're gonna cut it into slices and then just kind of arrange the slices. Try to make sure they're pretty even in thickness. That one's a little thin. My fault. You could also just soften all the butter and then spread it out, but that would take an extra dish and I'm not about that life. So put that on there. 2. And this is going to go in the middle of our croissant dough that we already have made that's been chilling overnight. So it's like that, and now just gonna chop up the last bit to little cubes and then just put it wherever. So maybe I'll put it on the sides. Yeah. Wow, look at that. The masterclass in fractions right there. Here's what our butter sheet looks like. Ooh, very nice. And now I'm going to fold the parchment paper over the butter, similar to how we wrapped our croissant dough up. Fold it in, crease it, fold it in, flip it, and now we're going to roll it with a rolling pin. Rolling pin. And we want it to kind of soften it and just get it together, because you want it to be in one uniform sheet so that it incorporates evenly in nice thin even layers into the dough. Because if you don't do this and then you just like, if you just spread the butter on and it wasn't like below room temperature, it's just gonna melt into the dough and then you're not gonna get the layers. And then if you don't have it even, you're gonna end up with uneven clumps in it instead of it just being a smooth kind of evenly incorporated amount of butter, which I've done that before where my sheet wasn't really that even and the butter was too cold when I made them, and so it kind of like flaked off into the dough, and so you could see the little flakes of butter instead of it just being like smooth little even bits in like a sheet. But like they still worked, they just weren't as aesthetically pleasing, and it also kind of affected the rising of them because it wasn't all rising evenly. So just better to make sure that your butter barrage is even and incorporated correctly into your dough. Here I'm just kind of warming it with my hands because I want the seams to get really together so that it doesn't break up. But the butter's pretty cold, so just gonna warm it a bit. Okay, and now if you look at that, you've got a very even, nice even sheet of butter. And you can still sort of see where the separate pieces are, but for the most part, they've all kind of been blended together. Okay, what we're doing now is, this is our croissant dough that's chilled overnight. So we're going to, it's nice and soft. We're going to roll it out so that it has the same width as the butter, but is a little longer than the butter. I'm just gonna do this on the same parchment paper that we had it stored on, because why create more waste? So we're just gonna start rolling. Gonna need some flour just for the top of this dough. You don't want too much, because if you put too much, then the butter's not gonna adhere to it as well. But also, you don't want your rolling pin to be sticking to it, so gonna need at least a little bit. I'm changing my mind. I'm taking it off the plastic wrap and just putting it on a clean counter. Because the parchment paper was moving around too much. On the edge just to kind of take it off. Now I'm gonna get the butter and we're going to put the butter on this nice dough. I have our barrage, which has chilled outside for like 5 minutes or so. And you want it so that the butter has about the same amount of give as the croissant dough. There we go. So, I'm going to take the butter and put it just in the middle, like that, of the dough. And then what you're going to do is take the dough and fold it over the sides. That looks disgusting. I don't like the way that looks. Or like stretched out and dried. Don't know that, but it's fine. And actually, I need this butter to be a little bit longer. So we're just going to put it back on our parchment sheet. Move the croissant dough over to the other side. There. And then just roll this out a little bit. Ew, why does that? Oh, it's inside out. Pull it. Boom. Butter down. Get it. Okay. And then I'm gonna roll it out so that it's longer. Okay, now it's quite a bit longer. We'll see if it's long enough for this. Boop. Okay. Voila. Okay. Yeah. Fortunately, I fully just made the dough for the croissant longer by lifting it up. So, time to just kind of let that relax a bit and go back in. And then now, fold one side over, fold the other side over. Ideally what you're aiming for is so that this overlap doesn't happen, but it's fine. On the other folds you do, you're gonna want that overlap to happen, but not on this one, but whatevs. It's not gonna wreck the final product. At least I don't think. We're gonna do a little more flour just to keep everything from sticking. I'm gonna flip it so the seam's on the bottom. That way my rolling pin's not gonna get caught on that. And then twist it. And then we're gonna roll this out. And you want to try to make sure that this rectangle is staying as even as possible, so you can just kind of stop, check the sides, make sure everything's smooth and good. Okay, and now that we've gotten it rolled to pretty nice thickness, it's not super thick. It's about as long as we had it before. It's a little shorter, but now we're just going to take it again and then give it a fold. And this time you want it to overlap. So one fold and then the next fold into the thirds. And then this is what's creating layers, because now we've got butter in between here. So we've got dough, butter, dough, dough, butter, dough, dough, butter, dough. I don't know if that makes sense, but that's like, we've already folded it once, so that's like 3, 6, 9, like 9 layers, I think. I don't know. But anyways, take that, and then we're gonna cover this in plastic wrap, and then chill this so that the butter hardens, because we don't want it to melt all inside. That's kind of one of the biggest things you want to avoid, is letting your butter melt, because if you do, you're not gonna get the layers. You're just gonna have buttery rolled up bread. Probably would taste good, but not really the desired outcome with this. Okay, and here's a nice even rectangle of croissant dough to go and chill. Okay, time for our next turn and roll out of the dough. So we've got the seam, and so the direction that we're going to be rolling is like that way instead of that way, because you want it to not just spread out the seam. So we're going to take a little bit of our flour, a little bit on the counter, put some on the dough, and start rolling it out. Okay, now we're going to do the same type of fold as before. This is what the dough is looking like. So the fold is taking from the end, folding it in about a third, a little bit more than that, there. And pat it down. Then you take the other end, fold it over. You can see the streaks of butter in that. Very nice. And now wrap it and then refrigerate it again for like 15 minutes or so that the butter sets. It is time for our last fold. So we're going to get the dough from the fridge. It's been chilling. And then unwrap plastic. Now, there's our seam right there, so we're going to be going up and down that way. So turn it, and then roll. We're going to add a little more flour. rectangle that we're gonna fold and fold. Ew, dirt, get that out. Now, once again, gonna wrap it up, and then this time it has to chill for like 2 hours, and then we're gonna roll them and shape them.
The next day.
It is now day 3 of the croissant making process. We've been taking our time with this one. This is how our dough is now looking. It's been in the fridge overnight. It's definitely actually risen up some, which I was slightly surprised about. Obviously it's gonna rise up, there's yeast in it, but wasn't expecting to actually be able to like tell because it was in the fridge. That makes any sense. But now we're going to unwrap our dough. Beautiful. And we're gonna follow the counter and then roll it out into a nice big rectangle. Here is our dough all rolled out. You can see at the edge there's butter that kind of got broken up, but throughout the rest of the dough it's actually nice and smooth, so that's a good sign. Now we're going to cut it. Okay, I trimmed the edges so that they're like nice and straight. I didn't trim the top and the bottom because it's going to be rolled anyway, so it's fine. I'm going to do some of them just in like straight, I'm using a pizza cutter, BT cubs, but in straight lines because I'm just going to turn them into chocolate croissants. But then other ones I'm going to do in triangles. So I'm going to first just split it down the middle, making sure to not cut the counter because that'd be bad. Okay, and then you can kind of just separate it off. It's nice if you look at the side of the dough, you can actually see layers of stuff. Can't see it on camera because it's kind of fine, but if you look at it with your eyes, you can see it. Okay, so now we're going to just go at a diagonal from the top to the bottom. Here's the top view of what that looks like. And then starting at the bottom corner in the other one, just go straight up from there. And that way you get 2 triangles like that. And then just take the other one and then cut that in half at the diagonal too. I'm pretty sure this is kind of the shape that if you get like crescent dough at the store, I think that's kind of the shape that it's in. So that's what you're looking for. And then this next one, just going to cut it down the middle and then cut each of those sections into 2 pieces. Beautiful. So now we've got up top view our 4 chocolate croissants and our 4 regular croissants. And now the chocolate ones, all you do, I might show this once I make chocolate or melt it, but you just have a piece of chocolate and then you're just gonna roll it all the way up. And now these ones, the non-chocolate ones, the rollings, pretty much you are just rolling it all the way up. You're gonna start at the bottom of your triangle and then start rolling it, the edges, and you want to make sure that it stays so that your section that's going to be in the middle actually is in the middle at the end of it. You don't want it to get off to the side. Then once you roll it, you have this beautiful looking croissant. And you can take the edge, and I like to kind of just warm the edge with my fingers, and then you can use that to kind of just stick it down because the butter that's in that tiny point will melt a little bit. And then, yeah, beautiful croissant. And we're going to do that with the rest of them. This time the end is at this side. So we're just gonna start rolling. Make sure it's a nice tight roll, because this rolling is also what increases the layers. Voila. Warm the end, stick it down, smooth it out. Beautiful croissant. And if you want that croissant look that's kind of like curled, and I do that with the next one, then you just have to roll, or like, not roll, sorry, fold the edges in towards each other so that it goes in more of a crescent shape. Okay, roll. Make sure it stays nice and taut. And smooth that down. So then once you have your croissant like that, you just kind of curl it like that. Voila. But I'm gonna uncurl mine because I don't really want them like that. Next one. Definitely gonna have to put this dough back in the fridge pretty quick because I can already feel the butter starting to get kind of soft. And we don't want that. There we go. And by putting them in the fridge, I fully lied. I'm not putting them in the fridge. I'm just putting them, not touching them, off to the side because I need to proof for like 2 more hours before they actually get baked. So I have here my parchment lined baking sheet. So I'm going to take the croissants and put them just on here. And you want them to be decently spaced away from each other so they have room that they can actually rise and they're not gonna be touching each other. So here is the finished croissants. They're not very even, honestly. This one was the first one I did and this one was the last one I did, so they definitely got smaller as they went. So I guess if you wanted to be super precise about it, then you could literally get out like a ruler and measure and make sure all your sections are even. But where these are just kind of fun croissants, it doesn't really matter that much. Okay, we've got our chocolate croissant stuff ready. Now, the chocolate looks a little weird. Kind of looks like slugs or something else, but it is chocolate. It's melted chocolate, and then there's butter in it, and then mixed with cocoa powder and sugar. Similar to filling for kebabka. But anyways, I have them in 2 little kind of rolls like this, and whatever. But basically, I feel like you can see this one best. I'm going to take 1 roll and put it right on the edge of the croissant. And then you start to roll it. And then once you get it so that the roll is fully covered in the dough, then you're going to take the next one and put it right next to it. So one chocolate's fully in the dough, and then the next is right next to it. And then once you get to there, flip it over. And make sure that it's all even and lined up the whole time. And keep going, flip it. Flip it, and just keep flipping it and rolling it in until you get to the middle. Look at that. Beautiful. Now same thing, I'm just gonna kind of smooth the sides down if I can. Actually, we're just gonna kind of roll it on itself. Okay, now we're going to take another baking sheet. Put some parchment paper on it. This parchment paper that I'm using is literally the same parchment paper that we used for covering our croissant dough at the very beginning of this whole process. Which is nice, because it's less waste, because it was kind of a massive amount of parchment that we needed for it. So now we've got our chocolate croissants. We're going to cover them loosely in plastic wrap just so that they don't get too dried out, and then let them rise for like 2 hours. Okay, these are the croissants now that they've proofed in the oven for like 2 hours. Voila. Technically, it's said to just leave them at room temperature, but our room temperature is pretty cold most times, so it's actually nice that you can literally see the layering in it, which I think is a good sign. But yeah, they puffed up quite a bit. I don't know if they quite doubled in size, but they're definitely a lot larger than they were before. I'm hoping that they bake up well and come out good, because right now they're looking pretty delish. Okay, time for an egg wash. I mixed up an egg and I added just a little splash of water to it. Now we're brushing it. Make sure that you get all down the sides, even under it a little bit, because when it puffs up, you want it to get that nice, even golden brown. Voila. I'm gonna do 2 coats of egg wash. So I'm gonna do just one on each at first, and then I'm gonna come back and then go over it again. Okay, we got them proofed. Got our oven. I'm actually gonna move one of the racks up one. Oh. Yeah. So they don't hit each other. Okay. We're gonna do chocolate down below, I think. Voila. They've also gotten that double egg wash on them. Voila. Beautiful. Hopefully they come out beautiful too. Okay, goodbye croissants. I wish you well. And 15 minutes on the timer. Start. Here is our finished product. Literally, look at how gorgeous. Now this one looks like beautiful. The little tips on the end there are a little bit dark, but honestly, that's okay. It's bound to happen because it's a thinner layer of dough. I guess if I like wash them better, then maybe I would get it perfectly. But I like the darkness of color there, so it kind of just needed to happen, I guess. I guess maybe I could not put egg wash on that, and then it would work. But yeah, they look so shiny. This one looks great for the chocolate, and this one looks decent, except that part kind of came out, which I had noticed that part was like sticking off, but after it proofed, I didn't really want to pinch it together and take any air out of it. Now these chocolate ones, they kind of went off to the side. I don't exactly know why that happened, but it's okay. They'll still taste good. And then I put the bigger croissant is still in the oven. That door is disgustingly dirty. Clean that at some point. Whoops. But yeah, put it into a little more color, but beautiful croissants. Here they are again, so pretty. Now I'm going to cut into one. I don't know which one. Which one should I cut into, Catherine, to have with my lunch?
Do you want a normal one or a chocolate one?
Normal one, I think.
I would say...
Time's ticking. This video is already really long.
But my gut says that one.
This one? Okay. Okay. To the cutting board. Hi, buddy. Now, to shredded knife. Are you able to hold this? Just get the croissant.
Oh, you don't want by painting?
I mean, it can go in there too. Okay. First reveal for me too, so if these look bad, tough. Ooh.
Okay.
That actually looks pretty nice. Look at that.
What?
That looks so nice. Can you hit that button? Yeah.
Yeah,
Perfect.
that's what I thought.
Okay, now time for a little taste test. Delicious. So good. 10 out of 10. Just kidding. I would probably give them like a 9 out of 10 because I do think it could have been baked slightly more in the middle, which would have then puffed it up even more on the inside. But they're getting pretty brown on top. So maybe next time, less egg wash.
Not the double one?
No. The recipe did say to double it, but whatever. But it did get a nice shine, so I don't really know. Or could try to take the oven temp down maybe. But you also kind of want it high so that they get that puff at the beginning. So I don't know. Tamper with it a little bit. See what happens. Best of luck if you make these croissants. I'm gonna put down a link to the actual recipe because I didn't make this recipe. I'm just making it, but there's a buddy here on that. Okay, we're gonna cut this croissant now. This is a chocolate one. Oh, it's so light. Look at that. Beautiful. Once again, kind of underbaked, honestly, but that's okay. We'll know for next time. That looks super pretty. Anyways, hope you enjoyed this little croissant making video, and by little I mean really long.
How long this video on your channel now?
Don't know. If you stuck around this long, I hope you enjoyed and had fun, and yeah. See you in another life, brother.